Hey everyone, how's it going? Phil Jones here. Um, I wanted to kind of stay away from this subject, but I think it's a really kind of interesting opportunity to talk about something that kind of drives all of us, right? Subconsciously. So, obviously, the majority of people I can imagine have seen obviously what's happening in London, the marches, and um, and obviously to do with immigration and people shouting they want their country back and stuff like that. And I think a lot with everything over the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of this occurring. Not the same subject, but we saw it through COVID. We saw it through the Black Lives Matters kind of marches. And now we're seeing it with the the immigrant marches up in London, and all of those things had a a reason, like a positive reason behind them. Okay, like underlying there was a something that someone was trying to tell us, right? Um, But everything nowadays is such a double-sided sword. It's you have this kind of thing that happened, which obviously gets brings to the front of people's awareness that something is wrong, okay, or that something needs to be talked about, which is great because people should be able to speak about things, okay. However triggering it is for other people who maybe don't feel the same way. Talking is never really bad. It always leads to change, which normally leads to growth and progression, right? Okay, it's exactly the same with kind of, mental health, okay, and talking about trauma and subconscious routines and the way we act and why we act, and kind of looking back into history and trying to kind of decipher all these things that we've locked away so we can live a better future. And a lot of these kind of marches and events that have occurred have shown us that. We've always kind of looked back at the past and then it's changed something for the future. Um, but there's always this kind of like underlying thing of people getting involved. You always wonder how many of these people who get involved actually are authentically connected to what they're actually marching about, right? And I think these events are really good at showing like the human kind of mental architecture and how we act. So sometimes people just need an event to act out, right? We are all acting out our kind of previous coding, okay? And we can't help it. We don't have like control over it, especially if our environment dictates it. So if our environment supports that kind of aggravated response or supports that kind of toxic input, which keeps us in this kind of rolling cycle of continuously reliving our past traumas, which we've done. Well, I say which our subconscious, our brains, our bodies have done such a good job of locking away inside us, and hiding from us. But as with anything, and I talk about this a lot in the whole kind of connections between the physical domain and the mental domain, is that much like if you had a physical injury, okay, and I've done some fair physical stuff, so I've had my injuries before, and I've kind of ignored it or done something to distract myself from it, taking some medication, kind of pre-medicated or self-medicated myself, especially when I was on commando course. I did a lot of that, because of that kind of drive to complete things, and it just those physical things have never healed properly because I never spent the correct amount of attention on them for them to heal. So they always, they're never right. Like my ankles aren't right, my hips aren't right, etc., etc. And it's much the same with the mental. But the issue is we don't theoretically make that conscious decision consciously. Subconsciously, your brain decides, right, this is really traumatic and I don't want to think about it. Or this isn't helping the survival of my human. So I'm going to hide that away. And we hide that away either using distractions or coping mechanisms and stuff like that. But while that's kind of gone from your everyday view, it's still there, affecting the things you do, affecting the decisions you make, affecting the way you react to things, affecting the relationships you have, or affecting the people that you seek out to be part of your community. Okay. Like, even though it's hidden from sight, your body will always, or your brain will always find things to back up your narrative about yourself, your ego, your who you are, and I think we're in this situation now where, and this happened in the past, obviously throughout human history, where people just want to be part of something because internally people feel lost. Finding purpose, and I'm not talking about purpose sitting on a mountain like with humming. I'm talking about who you feel authentically. Yeah, like how you impact the world. What is how do you go into situations? Do you leave them in a positive manner, or do you leave them in a negative manner? Okay, I think a lot of our purposes, we're always looking externally for purposes, but I think really deep down our human purpose is to interact with other humans and make the world a better place, right? And make other people better people, and use your experiences, good or bad, to theoretically help other people get through their experiences, and vice versa. I always believe that if you sit down with anyone, you can learn something from them, whether that be good or bad, something you want to do, something you don't want to do. Okay. And these marchers, although they have a kind of underlying idea of what, like the situation is as such, the situation is human made. Like, separation, race, people taking, coming in, taking money, yes, you're right. There's a massive imbalance. I pay my taxes, and yeah, of course, I think the way people come into this country really needs to change. Okay. And of course, I have a daughter. I don't want rapists and paedophiles running around and her to be in danger. But the point being, that's the primary point. But are people really that bothered about that, or are they using that to theoretically release their feeling that actually they don't really know who they are and what they belong to? Because strip us all down, cut us, we all bleed red, right? We all got different ideas, sometimes we like to get caught up in our history. Obviously, I'm a white straight male, so theoretically, I've never been kind of seen off, so they say in society. And I can connect with people who do feel seen off, just because I haven't been seen off by society, I have felt those feelings before, and through other methods, obviously. And I just feel it's really interesting how these kind of events kind of bring out this kind of idea that people really just feel unsafe within themselves. They don't feel seen. Okay. And that leads to anger and being scared. Like, anger is just fear and sadness banged together. Like, anger is just a output of those two emotions, right? Because being scared and feeling unsafe and being sad, normal emotion from that would be something like crying. Now, people find that very hard to do. It's not a theoretically accepted emotion within society, not a lot, especially within the male community, right? I'm struggling with that on my own, okay, but delving into it and hopefully unlocking those kind of doors. But I see a lot of this. I see a lot of anger over things which theoretically we've made up as a human kind of entity. You know, like I said, separation from each other, you know, money, you know, materialistic kind of, this is mine, you can't have it, I've earned this, how dare you take it away from me, you know, I'm so seen off, that kind of pity, you know, self-pity, hard done by kind of idea, you know. And you saw that in COVID when everyone went out and suddenly become very selfish about how they were just gonna, you know, they kind of separated themselves from everyone, like, I'm just gonna look after myself, you know, and theoretically screw everyone else, you know. And it really highlights the human, how we are nowadays, and how this idea of coming away from the physical entities of our life, like the things that are important to us, like you know, like all our materialistic belongings and who we're status in the world, and you know, and what we wear and what that reflects to other people about our capabilities and our self-worth. You know, it's what runs us. It runs us subconsciously, and all of that is all things that got put into us when we were children. So, you know, when people are like running around saying, oh, they're all grown up, they're not grown up at all. We might be grown up physically, but we're not grown up in here. You know, just because we're not playing with dolls and that doesn't actually mean that we're still not getting run by our childhood memories and experiences. And I think that's why talking about kind of, I'm not even going to mental health, just kind of awareness. Talking about awareness, talking about authenticity, talking about being true to yourself, you know, spending more time looking into emotions. Like, why do I feel like that? Why do I get triggered by these people coming into this country, you know, trying to escape these war zones? You know, there's some obvious reasons, you know, we want to be safe, but like, why does, like, you know, you know, like stuff like COVID, you know, why do I just kind of go out and screw everyone else and just kind of do, you know, so, I mean, society has backed that up. You know, society like keeps us separated. And I just think when I look at these things happening, it's just like literally someone's set up a flare, and I think, Jesus, look at them all. Look at them all running their own subconscious routines, which they have no choice over in their current state, because they know no different. You know, I feel angry, I'm going to go out and smash stuff up. You know, not why do I feel angry? Why do I feel angry? I'll have a look back. Maybe it was the way my parents, or the way I was treated at school, or something like that. But that thing is, that takes time, takes effort, isn't easy, doesn't give you that quick response that everyone's so used to nowadays. You know, and it's so much easier just to go, I'll just get angry and smash stuff up, or shout and scream, or, you know, get on Instagram and rile people up. You know, like I said, all of these things, there were problems. You know, there's problems that need, and it's great that people are voicing their opinion. Okay, but there is a line, and there is a deep underlying river of a lot more kind of personal issue that I believe is going on. But that's just my outlook on it from my perspective. I kind of just sit back and watch. Anyway, I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're safe, and I hope you're well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.